Hi, I'm Mark James, your host for Hornet Spotlight, and we're pleased to have with us today Assistant Superintendent of Beech Grove City Schools, Dr. Tom Keeley. And let's just get started right away. Let's talk a little bit about education in the state of Indiana. There's an old adage about the weather in Indiana. Wait 5 minutes, it'll change. And certainly over the last 3 to 5 years, we could say that about education in the state of Indiana.
Absolutely. I started as the business manager, assistant superintendent here in 2008, which actually was a landmark time of complete change. Not only how we do business and numbers and things, but also how funding has really changed the way we approach our school corporation and the way we pay our teachers and the way we pay our administrators. So things have really changed in the 5 to 6 years that I've been doing this job.
Well, let's touch on that funding formula. For years tied to property taxes, within the past couple of years, that's changed quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it has changed the way we look at our programming and what we do here as a school system. It used to be that we were about 90% property tax, and it was local property tax. And we could raise the tax rate and maneuver things to make sure that we had an exact amount of dollars to run our programming and what we do as a school system. 2008, that all changed, and they moved into two components. One is the general fund, and that pays for teachers, it pays for administrators, it pays for all student programming. And that is now tied to the economy, tied to sales tax, tied to the lottery, things like that are very cyclical in nature. And then the other piece was property tax remained capped. It started to become a set dollar amount to run transportation, pay our debt service payments, which is essentially the school mortgage payment for our land and our buildings, and to do HVAC, buildings and grounds, things like that. And so we have a set dollar figure that doesn't fluctuate, or at least it's not supposed to fluctuate with the property, and the property tax is that piece. So those are two very specific components now that are different.
So being mindful of finances and how they're affected by the economy, when Dr. Tom Keeley drives downtown and sees the great things that Mayor Buckley and this town council is doing with the Main Street project, you see that as a long-term benefit for Beech Grove City Schools, and explain exactly how that is a long-term benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started, I really didn't pay too much attention to local business and to local, what are we doing with TIF districts and things like that are very technical, things. And when Lowe's came in or Walmart changed, I was happy that we had a store, but I didn't pay attention to what that did to the value of the local economy. And now, when I see St. Francis potentially having maybe a new person in there and changing the whole landscape there, and the Main Street project or Amtrak, I pay attention to that because it changes the value of our land. The value, it's called assessed valuation, because the tax rate that I have that is pretty well set because of the tax caps is absolutely dependent on a thriving economy and a thriving local government. And so the changes Mayor Buckley has done, and even our local chamber of commerce has really changed the view of what we are as local businesses in Beech Grove. If we can do improvements and we can make positive there, that equates actually to more dollars and to the beautification of our school corporation and our buildings.
This voucher program that the governor recently signed into law, the expansion of it, what do we know the full impact that it could have on Beech Grove City Schools?
Yeah, the voucher program is something that is still ebb and flowing. It is going to change, and I anticipate it changing in the future. But the one thing that it has done is it has taken a set dollar figure, and let's say there's $1 billion for the state of Indiana for school funding, public schools. You have now taken 5 to 7% of those dollars, and you've said, you know what? We're going to allocate those to some private institutions and help supplement the amount of money to go to private schools. My view on that from Beech Grove City Schools is we don't need to stomp our foot and get upset and say, you know what? This is a travesty. Money's going to private institutions. I think rather we need to consider this a challenge and look at it as a competitive environment. We need to look at our programming and say, you know what? We do great things. We do great things with our alternate education. We have an art program that is outstanding. We have one of the top 5 bands in the state of Indiana. Our educational programming from FFA science department to English is competitive with anyone in the entire state of Indiana. And I think that we need to focus on that, and so that people will go, do I go to a private school or do I choose Beech Grove? Because even if we have students coming from other districts, when they come into Beech Grove and they're part of our educational community, we get dollars for that. And so instead of it thinking about dollars going to private institutions, we need to grab and wrap our arms around the idea that we are a competitive group, and we will compete with the best programming possible. And I really think that when it boils down to where these dollars are headed, I think the legislature actually had that in mind. They want the public school to become a competitive entity where you're not just serving the students in your local community, but you have such a wonderful program that people choose to come into your district, even from outside. And that actually, those dollars, those students benefit us from a community, because they're bringing in dollars also that help have teachers, have programming, and have activities that are currently going on.
Beech Grove Assistant Superintendent Dr. Tom Keeley is our guest on Hornet Spotlight this week. To that end, our governor, Mike Pence, one of the platforms that he ran on was a platform of expanding vocational education, realizing that not every Hoosier student is going to go to college, as much as we would like that in an ideal society, in a perfect world. How do you see the expansion of the vocational education program benefiting Beech Grove City Schools?
Yeah, we've looked at we thought that many of those dollars would just go to our Central 9 Career Center. But as we've learned more and more about how those dollars are tied to the classroom activities, we've really moved that into more of a dual credit opportunity business, career readiness, early technology kind of exploration kind of classes, as well as family consumer science, so life skills. And we've brought those certifications and those teachers into our classrooms here in our building at Beech Grove High School. And because we've increased those programs and increased those numbers of kids in those areas, we actually have increased our funding here to the high school. So we embraced the change and looked at how this could benefit our school system, instead of going, well, let's just increase numbers traveling over to C9.
Right.
And so I think that school systems, especially here in central Indiana, we have that opportunity. There's a lot of student population. The more vocational opportunities we have for kids like that, the more problem-based learning opportunities, the more various kinds of kids we can have in here. So we're serving not only our high-end honors diploma kid, but also our student who is ready to work at 17, 18, 19 years old, ready to get out in the workforce, and there's nothing wrong with that. I really think it's kind of neat too. Our career readiness is also connected to Ivy Tech, Vincennes University, and some higher ed educational opportunities. So even as they go into the workforce, they're going to get that bachelor's along the way, or their vocational licensing along the way. And so I think there's a misnomer to think that vocational funding is just to get a kid into the career workplace, where there's actually post-secondary education along the way, and even in high school. One of our goals is to have kids graduate with a year worth of college credit at a reduced rate by the time they're 18 years old and they leave with their diploma here at the high school.
Well, with one out of college and one in college myself, that's cost savings, and I'm all for that, no question. When you turn off of Emerson Avenue onto the street name for Katie Gerald's, people might, what is this Hornet Enrichment Academy? That's right when you make the turn on the right-hand side, adjacent to the bank. And I think it's, and we're going to do what we can through shows like this to correct that. That might be one of the best kept secrets in Central Indiana in terms of education.
Yeah, absolutely. The Hornet Enrichment Academy is an alternate education opportunity for students who haven't been traditionally successful, maybe as a freshman or a sophomore in the high school. They maybe need to work because they have some other challenges going on in life. And that student population, we run anywhere from 40 to 60 kids out there, and out of an 800 population of 800 kids, that's considerable. Those students aren't able to make it in a traditional 8 to 3:30 setting. And so they may have a reduced workload, they may be behind in credits, and so they need an accelerated program, And our traditional environment doesn't provide for that opportunity. Also, their learning style might be technology-based.
Right.
And so we have tablets and we have laptops, and we have just a different approach to education, a lot of online opportunity out there. You can't sign up and just ask to be there. It is by a referral basis, and it is for kind of a different kind of kid here and there. But we've graduated over 20 kids already in this last year. And it's really interesting that if we can capture those kids and say, no, you know what, you might be 19 even. We want you to graduate. We want you to get your diploma through us, and we're going to help you get there. We have individual learning plans, and some are accelerated and some are a little bit, they need a little bit of help or a little bit of inspection on what they're doing on a daily basis, and some are even in the evening. So it meets the needs of a lot of different learners, and I agree with you. It is a best kept secret. We really appreciate it, but also our graduation rate because of it has changed by about 8 to 9%. It's increased.
That's incredible.
Just because we have those kids as active students instead of just at home going, what do I do now? I don't fit into the mold of a regular high school student. And so we're very proud of what we've created there.
Well, I think what the Hornet Enrichment Academy, what the expansion of the Ag Sciences Department, the addition of the Science Wing, and just the overall, the change to block scheduling, the balanced calendar, all of those things, I think the community needs to understand that from Dr. Paul Kaiser to Dr. Tom Keeley to the administrators and all the building and the board, there is a unified effort to make sure that these students that come to our schools here at Beech Grove City Schools are on the cutting edge of education and being given every opportunity to succeed.
Absolutely. I've been at Beech Grove for 10 years. And I have fought the fight, I believe the good fight, as middle school principal, athletic director, business manager, and now assistant superintendent. When we make decisions, we remind everybody, whether we're in a community forum or the board meeting or an administrative meeting, why are we making a change? Is this an adult decision for adults? And many times we would do that. We'd change a schedule, or we would change the makeup of how we expel students or how we accept students based on adult needs. We don't do that at all. We always remind ourselves, and we even talked about it yesterday and talked about it in the board meeting. We make decisions based on what's best for kids. It is an adult decision for kids, what's best for kids, not what's just best for adults. And so the balanced calendar is one great example of that. What is best for kids? Kids who don't have a lot of enrichment and a lot of things going on outside, if you give them time off from June 1st all the way to August 15th, you've got 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 weeks there where they're away from education completely. Well, now we've created a balanced calendar where there's only 4 weeks in the summer, 2 weeks at fall break, 3 weeks at Christmas, and 2 weeks at spring break. You have these short breaks where the loss of learning and this kind of momentum isn't seasonal. It's a momentum that's just going on all the way through. And then we fill those gaps with these remediation opportunities. That is an absolute decision, an adult decision in the best interest of kids. And that's just one example. Hornet Enrichment Academy, that is not an adult decision for adults. That is absolutely for those 40 to 60 kids that would have been at home. And so these are all based on kids' needs and in what's best for kids. And so I'm really proud that that culture has been built. As you know, culture takes time. It takes years.
Oh, sure.
And I think it's ingrained in all of our educators now, is that when we make a decision, the first thing I'm going to ask you, that's a great idea, but what does it do for the kid?
Right.
Why is it best for kids?
Well, and I think I spent most of my life in Monrovia. It's west of, for those of you who don't know, west of I-70, very small community. I would say that in the short amount of time I've been here since last August, there are many similarities in the fact that you have a lot of staff who are Beech Grove graduates. You have a lot of second, third generation students here. It's not just in name alone, Beech Grove City Schools, that ties this school to the community. It's the community center. You can come onto this campus all throughout the course of the year, on the weekends, on Saturdays and on Sundays, and you see people coming to sporting events and being involved in things that our outstanding drama and choir departments are doing. Our band, as you mentioned, one of the best in the state. People take ownership of this school corporation, and I think it's an extension of the community as a whole.
Yeah, I think we value, a lot of our coaches are former players. all-star players that want to give back. Right now, I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce, part of the board there, and I see the just in the business community how much they value a great school system and a tradition, and that's really what's been built here. I think the Alumni Association, Katie Gerald's has a basketball camp in the summertime. I mean, there are people, you know, from all levels coming back, state champion wrestlers coming back, trying to say, you know what, I was there when I was 12 years old, and I had a decision: do I work hard, and do I, you know, have a pride factor going on for, you know, to be a Hornet, or do I just kind of, you know, just kind of exist and go along? And these people have come back and are really giving back to the community and giving back to our students, and I really see a lot of commitment, and our students notice that. They absolutely notice that these are icons and different people in here, and so we have a lot of come back to school alumni evenings and afternoons,
Sure.
things like that. But we also have guest speakers, and so you're right, it is absolutely a school community feeling, not only of current people, current students, but also of alumni.
Well, before we let you go, I would imagine that from a community perspective, the only dumb question, we say it as coaches over the year, the only dumb question is the one you don't ask. If you have a question, ask. And I'm guessing that's your message to the community. If they have a question, we have school board meetings, have opportunities for people to ask those questions about these things that come up they may not be aware of.
Absolutely. Our administration has to be one of the most open, open group of people. Every one of our administrators, whether you're interested in the kindergarten program with Aaron Probus or Central Elementary, I got to get through this test. My child has to pass a reading test in the 3rd grade or they don't move on. There's a lot of nervous questions that are out there going into middle school, becoming a high school student for the first time. It's a phone call away.
Right.
You can get online, Beech Grove City Schools, you can email. They will respond.
Right.
I get a number of phone calls, and I've even had a couple of local community people who've just reached retirement, and they want to know how their property tax at home is going to be affected here in the next 3 to 5 years. They've come into the office, sat down, we went through some funding, went through some dollars. This is one of the most open administrations that I've had the opportunity to be involved in, but we also pride ourselves in that. So absolutely, pick up the phone, come in. Dr. Kaiser is very approachable, and certainly all of our building principals are very personable and very approachable. So
he may take the discussion toward basketball for a few minutes, but he'll get right back to talking about it.
Absolutely, he does have some ties to athletics, which is actually a lot of fun, and he does have some great stories too, of Larry Bird and things in the past.
Yeah.
So it is quite fun to listen to those too.
Well, when next August rolls around, we need to get you back here on a regular basis. We didn't touch on transportation and some other things, how technology is changing. I mean, this thing could go a couple of hours if we really wanted it to. So when next school year rolls around in the fall, we'll certainly have you back on a regular basis.
Absolutely. That sounds great. And I enjoyed my time. I think that a lot of people view our jobs as very different than what we actually do on a daily basis and what we embody as a school community and a culture. And so this is a great forum for me just to kind of explain some of those things. So I appreciate the questions that you had.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. It's Tom Keeley. He's our assistant superintendent here at Beech Grove City Schools. I'm Mark Janes, your host for Hornet Spotlight. Our thanks to Wiley Kraft for his production assistance today. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.